happened to 4 young brothers in a West Harris County apartment is horrific and heartbreaking. But it's important to understand what happened so everyone can recognize the signs and hopefully be able to rescue other children who are having to suffer the same nightmare in silence.
This case involves a man accused of beating his girlfriend's children, killing one of them, while the mother's accused of failing to protect her boys. Lauren Tallarico is asking the tough questions tonight about how these children could suffer for so long without anyone noticing.
You know, the more we learn about this investigation, the worse it gets. Tonight, we're about to give you an inside look into the lives of this mother and her boyfriend. But first, we have got to warn you, what you're about to hear is upsetting.
Getting high is not for everybody.
These videos and pictures you are seeing are from the public Instagram accounts of Gloria Williams and her boyfriend, Brian Coulter. Scrolling through, they showcase jewelry, food, and he talks about getting drunk or high repeatedly.
I smoke mad weed, I drink mad shit, man, look. I just do my fair share of things.
Today in court, as Gloria Williams stood before a judge, prosecutors said her son told investigators Coulter's drinking led to the abuse.
He stated when the co-defendant would drink beer and alcohol, he would get very strong.
Investigators with the Harris County Sheriff's Office say the boys were beaten, locked in rooms, and malnourished, forced to live alone in the same apartment with their 8-year-old brother's remains. Court documents say Coulter beat little Kendrick Lee to death in front of 2 of his brothers just before Thanksgiving last year.
Striking him in the face, feet, buttocks, back, his legs, and testicles with closed fists and feet. He stated his younger brother's eyes were black and that he stopped blinking during the assault.
On Sunday, the 15-year-old, seen blurred here, called 911 and this hell was discovered.
In my long time of working homicides, this one's up there. You know, this one affected us.
We saw soiled carpet, no furniture at all. No bedding, no blanket.
Sheriff Ed Gonzalez also says the apartment was infested with bugs and the 10-year-old had a broken jaw from about 3 weeks ago that he needs surgery to correct. Investigators also believe that 2 of the boys are on the autism spectrum. As for why the teen waited so long to call 911,
I believe it was absolute fear.
investigators say the mother would drop off junk food. Neighbors say they too would provide food but had no idea what was going on inside. Alief ISD confirms the kids hadn't been in school since May of last year, and there were no CPS investigations open, according to the agency, although they had a history with the family. These kids slipped through the safety nets.
And what we know is that they work well for some, but they're not intended for all.
Allie Jacobs is the director of counseling at the Houston Area Women's Center.
What do we need to do to make sure that no other children suffer this way?
What typically happens is kind of this bystander effect, that someone thinks that someone else is going to do something. Don't rely on someone else to do the checking or do the action.
And also ask questions.
Serving meals is helpful, but also like, when was the last time you ate? Like, who's feeding you on a regular basis?
Tonight, those 3 children are in foster care. Investigators say they will play a huge role in this murder case.
My hope and prayer, and I'm sure that the community shares, is that these kids find the love, support, and care that they deserve and need.
The boyfriend in this case is charged with murder. His bond was set at $1 million. The mother is facing several charges, including tampering with evidence. Her bond was set at $900,000. We're told charges could be added. Reporting from West Harris County, I'm Lauren Tallarico, KHO.
What a vile story. Hey guys, it's your girl Samantha here, and I really needed to report on this story. My sister actually just told me about it yesterday when I was talking about Olivia Popham out of Texas committing suicide, and my sister was like, I think this happened in Texas as well. So she was like, I know my sister must not know about this story if she's talking about this other story and not this one. This story is so grotesque. Like, I don't even know, they didn't even scratch the surface to me of all the issues with this story. And I really, it's so disturbing. I already shed my tears yesterday. Like, I literally cannot even get into full details because that's how disturbing. Like, I can't even do it. All I can say to the black community, we are on life support. There's no way these children should have been made to suffer like this for an entire year. And if neighbors are giving them money and like food or whatever, it's like, if you have to give them food, like, why aren't you calling CPS? Because I see CPS being called on parents who are just trying to raise their kids. You have a situation where the parents aren't even living there anymore, and these kids are hungry enough that you had to give them food, and you don't call CPS? What we need to stop doing is using CPS to criminalize parents who are just trying to parent because you want our kids to run loose and be ending up in prison somewhere, and use it for what it's really supposed to be used for. Like, my sister, she had a neighbor, and it was this little boy that lived over next to her, and she was worried about him. We were going to call CPS for him. I think they're doing better now, but like, it was definitely a concern that we saw, and we were talking about it, and we definitely said we were going to keep eyes on the situation and go from there, because I would have called. I mean, like, I'm like, if my sister doesn't want to be the bad guy because that's her neighbor and she has to look at him every day, I'll be the bad guy. I don't care. These types of stories are stories that make me want to wish I could just open up a home and wrap my arms around all black children who need help, who need somebody who loves them and will feed them and take care of them and clothe them. And I just want to just take them all. This is so devastating to me. And the little boy that was murdered was just so adorable. Here he is right here. Oh my gosh, he was just the cutest thing. And I'm like, how could you hurt this little face? It just drives me insane. It drives me insane. Like, it makes me so mad because I can't do anything to these two monsters. Let me go ahead and play this really quickly so you guys can see the little boy, because he's just this beautiful child, and I just cannot believe, I've heard some horrific things, but these are children, and they had to live in a house for a year, an apartment, not even a house, an apartment. So it wasn't even that big of a square footage. Can you imagine that? And the boy who was killed was like 8 years old. Like, he wasn't like, he's somebody they grew up with. Like, that was their brother, their friend. And for two of them, because I thought it was just one, they said, was in the room. But even just one is too much to have to witness this white guy coming in here and murdering your brother. I'm sorry. He comes in and murders your brother right in front of you. I mean, can you imagine how helpless you must feel? Like, because you're a child yourself, like, and I refuse to put any blame on any of these children because I cannot even imagine what level of crazy they have endured. I cannot even put myself in their shoes to say, oh, he should have did this, he should have did that. I'm just glad that 3 of them survived, and I hope they get the love and attention and that they need. And the family that just spoke, I'm gonna play this clip really quickly. I was mad because I'm like, what about the family? They said her family was sitting there, they're talking. It's like, oh, so now you're so vocal, you're so out there. But where were the kids? They were saying like the kids are in school. It's just fake news. I'm like, you always came over when the kids were in school. Really? Who visits people when in the middle of the day like that when kids are in school? Don't you have a job? Shouldn't you come over sometimes and the kids be home? Did you even see the kids stuff around the house? Like, you can tell when a kid doesn't live in the house. I just feel like so many people dropped the ball. So many people failed these children. From CPS to the neighbors to the family members. And I'm not even going to get on the mom. This bitch. They're going to get theirs in jail. They're going to get theirs in prison. This was a new level of evil. Like, I've heard some crazy stories, but I just cannot. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Like, I'm trying to understand, like, were you on drugs? Like, not weed, but I can't understand it. Some people should not be allowed to have children. You have 4 beautiful boys, and this is what you do to them. And you let this dickhead come in and kill your child, and you do nothing. You just continue to live with this guy. What if he was racist? I mean, just because you're sleeping with somebody black doesn't mean you're not racist. Like, it just... And they said 2 of the kids could have been on the autism spectrum. So I'm like, what if that was why the children were acting up some? Because they were autistic. Like, if you were any kind of a mom, you would have gotten them evaluated. You would know that. Because you would have been paying attention to your children. But she's just so wrapped up in whatever. See, this is why I tell black women, everyone's talking about how swirling and you need to divest. I agree. There's good white guys, I guess. But just be careful, ladies. Don't go jumping across the fence like black guys do, thinking that whitey is the prize, because it ain't. You know, you gotta be just as discerning as black people that you're dating, like any race you're dating. Like, what kind of person are you? And this is why I refuse to bring anyone else around my children who's not their father. I'm very protective of my sons. So that's why I will, if I had to be single for the next 18 years, I will do it. I will do it. Because nothing comes before my children. Definitely not no stinking raggedy ass man. Not today. Not now. Nope. That's why I tell women, get your money right. I'm grateful my parents raised us to be independent. And people can shit on that all they want to. Like, oh, you miss independent. You don't need a man. Yeah, you're right. I don't need a man. How about I'm raising 5 men? So that's why I don't need a man, because I already got 5. My sons take out the trash. They handle all that. I will not have shame. I'm not raising them to be my boyfriends, because that's weird. But my sons can fix things. They're amazing. They're being raised to be someone's amazing husband. And in the meantime, they're going to be helping their mom their whole lives. I'm their mother. You know, I'm getting older. This is what sons do. And that's what kids do. So people can talk crap all they want to, but the basics are the basics for a reason. Getting back to basics, the traditional things that people do, those are things that have been done for centuries for a reason, because it works. This new stuff, no, nobody knows what you're going to get. Hopefully not this. Let me play this video really quickly, and then I'll be done with this video, because I can't even go into detail because I'm so bothered. So bothered. And I want to follow the story just to see what's going to happen to these 2 demons. But I just can't get into details today. I just found out yesterday about it, and okay, so let me play it really quickly.
Esmond says she last spoke that has really captured national attention. A mother and her boyfriend are now facing charges in connection to 3 children found alone with a decomposing body. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Gutierrez.
And I'm Dominique Soxa. Investigators say the children had been living with their brother's skeletal remains for nearly a year. 35-year-old Gloria Williams is now charged with injury to a child by omission. And 31-year-old Brian Coulter has been charged with murder. He's expected back in court tomorrow. Our Michael Lepardi live at the courthouse downtown tonight with more. Michael?
Dominique, today the sheriff said that the case was too horrific, or seemed too horrific, to be real. And several relatives of the mom spoke about what they did and didn't know.
Days after deputies found 3 children abandoned in an apartment with skeletal remains, several relatives of the children's mother spoke with KPRC.
As far as we knew, she moved out of that apartment complex because the last place we seen was the other apartments that she and the boyfriend were at.
Yasmin Craig says she's the cousin of Gloria Williams, who's now charged with injury to a child and tampering with evidence. Williams' boyfriend, Brian Coulter, is charged with murder for the death of the 8-year-old boy.
Personally, I do want to ask why? Why didn't you reach out to us?
Yasmin says she last spoke with Gloria in June and that the family would ask about the children.
You kept saying, okay, they're good, they in school. Anytime we did go help, where the kids at, how they doing? Oh, they in school.
The sheriff says the 15-year-old called deputies on Sunday, telling them his brother had been dead for a year and his body was in the apartment. The teenager also said his parents hadn't lived in the apartment for months.
The kids deserve justice and they need help. They need the physical and the mental help to get over this trauma and put them back on a right track of life.
So I hope that these family members take these boys in and love on them and nurture them and get them back to health. And be patient with these babies, especially the 15-year-old, because yes, you might be like, oh, in 3 years he's grown. He's not grown. He's still going to need a lot of support. There's grown-ass people who can't even support themselves still, who still immature as I don't know what. He has been through some traumatic shit. So he turns 18. He needs to still be allowed to live with his relatives and build his life, slowly but surely. I don't even know how. I'm promising you, I don't know how he's going to function. I don't know how he's going to go on to go to college and get a job and re-enter society as a normal human being. They weren't even in school. That's a whole nother thing that pissed me off. It's like, how did the state not care that these children weren't in school? Because the state knows those kids live there. They know they live there, whether it's through taxes or, I'm trying to think, there's just different things you have to register with. And I'm just like, how did people just not even know those kids were in that house? They had to have known. The people who leased the house to the mother, did she not let it be known she had 4 children? Like, somebody knew in the state, I can't think on top of my head right now, but somebody knew those 4 kids were there. And it's against the law after the age of 5 to not have your children in school or have a plan to homeschool them. I don't know how Texas laws are, but I know in Virginia, if you don't put your child in public school, you have to notify the school board and let them know that you're, like that district, that you're going to homeschool. And they follow up and test your child the next following year to make sure your child actually was learning stuff during homeschool. That you're not just saying that just keep your kid in the house to abuse them. This is sickening. And this is why, they do have things like CPS for people like this. People like this make it hard for the rest of the parents who are doing the right thing and doing the best we can to raise our children, because they have to have something in place to protect the children. This was just ridiculous. And I'm like, I just don't know how so many people failed these kids. Okay, guys, let me go before I cry again. I'm so shocked. It makes me wonder, like, what other kids are living in some dire, crazy ass conditions that we don't know about. It really makes you look at your neighbors differently. Like, what's going on in that house over there? Do they have kids locked up in the basement? Like, it just makes you look at everything differently. Because in my neighborhood, for instance, nobody talks to anyone. Everyone's pretty to themselves. And I think, it's like you're doing it for safety too, because you're like, I really don't trust my neighbors. It's hard to trust people nowadays. When I first moved in, my one neighbor, they had a pregnant woman who was there, and then I never saw her again. So I was like, do I call the cops to a welfare check? But I just moved in. I didn't know them enough to know if she even was really living there, or was she just visiting, or was she staying there temporarily. It's just Just keep an eye on your neighbors, guys. If you see something, say something. If you are to the point where you're giving food to these children and you see the mom half-assed, she's barely coming over, because I'm sorry, neighbors see this, and they lived in an apartment complex, so it wasn't like this isolated house that was in the rural woods somewhere. They lived in an apartment complex. They had all kinds of people around, and any other time people are in your damn business, looking in your face, but you can't say, you don't notice that these kids are home by themselves. They live alone. The one neighbor said they smelled the decom, and they just complained, and that was it. Why not call the cops for that awful smell? Because I'm not going to blame the neighbor to not know that's death, because not everybody's been around death. I remember one time we had a mouse that died, and it smelled like death. It was horrible, and I had no clue what that was, and I can't tell you I would know the smell again if it were to happen. And if a mouse can smell that bad, I can't imagine what an entire body smells like. And y'all, this is okay. I'm about to go. I can't do this. I can't. I just wanted to report the story. I know that these people, they better get what's coming to them, the mother and the boyfriend, and I'll probably try to do an update on the story and keep it. I want to follow it just to see what happens with the children, but they're minors, so usually the news is not going to really put too much information out on them, which is fair. I do think they deserve their privacy, and they need to just be focusing on rebuilding. I do pray that they're with people who love them from here on. I prefer they go with family members that will take care of them, not the foster care system. I really don't want them in the foster care system unless the family members are just as degenerate as his Gloria Williams was. Okay, I'm gone. Let me know what you guys think about this story. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. So apparently police say in the case of the House of Horrors with Brian Coulter and Gloria Williams, these demons who murdered this child and abused these 4 boys. They say he was a textbook case of a child abuser. Police say boyfriend in Texas house tragedy abused the kids for years. Brian Coulter allegedly beat and kicked 8-year-old Kendrick Lee to death in November 2020. This was published 12 hours ago from Independent. I think it's .co.uk. 1 second. So the man accused of murdering his girlfriend's 8-year-old son in a Texas house of horrors is a textbook case of a person who abuses children, according to law enforcement. Harris County officials said in a press conference on Wednesday that Brian Coulter had abused his girlfriend, Gloria Williams' children consistently for several years. How did this escape CPS? I don't understand. I also want to know, where are the children's fathers? Whether it's a fathers, I'm not sure if they all share the same father, but where is the father of these children? So Coulter abused the children for several years before allegedly beating and kicking Kendrick Lee to death in November 2020. The abuse continued even after Kendrick's murder, when the couple abandoned her 3 surviving children in the Harris County apartment alongside their brother's rotting body, officials said. This is sickening. When the 3 children aged 15, 9, and 7 were finally rescued on Sunday, the 9-year-old was found to have an untreated jaw injury allegedly caused by Mr. Coulter just weeks ago. The young child must now undergo surgery for the injury, officials said. Brian Coulter was arrested and charged with the murder of Kendrick on Tuesday, 2 days after authorities found his skeletal remains inside a unit at City Park 2 at West Oaks Apartments in Harris County, Texas, alongside his 3 starving brothers. The 31-year-old allegedly murdered Kendrick between 20 and 29 November 2020 by punching and kicking him to death. For the next 11 months, the boy's body was shoved in a closet to decompose while his 3 brothers were left to fend for themselves in the apartment, according to the criminal complaint complaint. Mr. Coulter's bond was set at $1 million on Wednesday morning, and he is currently being held at a mental health facility. Oh, so now he's playing like he's crazy? Okay. Ms. Williams was also arrested on Tuesday and charged with the felony charge of injury to a child by omission and tampering with the human corpse. And you notice she's not in no mental health anything. The 35-year-old mother of the 4 children is accused of concealing her son's death, starving one of her other surviving sons, and failing to protect another from injury. This just breaks my heart. This absolutely breaks my heart. Like, as a mom of 5 boys, like, I just don't know. I don't know how you could do that to your children. Like, I just don't. I can't even wrap my head around it. I don't understand it. And it's just heartbreaking to think what these boys went through for several years. Because I really was just under the impression that all this horror just happened over this last year. And I don't know how so many people missed this. Harris County Sheriff's Office said the charges could be upgraded or further charges added in the case. Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said in a press conference that there was no evidence that Miss Williams was also a victim of abuse by her boyfriend. I don't think she was either. I don't think she was abused, but I don't understand why. Like, if he's not abusing her, like, why would you allow someone to come in and harm your children like this, especially someone who's not even their parent? Like, it's some random person you're dating. Like, I just don't understand this. I don't know how she could sit by and watch this guy do this to her kids. He said the couple had been in a relationship for a few years, and that the beatings were consistent over those years for the children. So basically, time we started dating, you're beating on my children? No, absolutely not. And Mr. Coulter is not the biological father of any of the 4 children. Yeah, I kind of assumed that much. Officials said they have learned that the children are to 2 different fathers, one of whom is believed to be dead, while the other is not involved in his children's lives. See? Another case of children being harmed because the father is not there. Just like Olivia Popham, deadbeat dads, and she goes and kills herself. It's just another cautionary tale. Like, you cannot abandon your children because people will come in and prey on them because they know they don't have the protection that a biological parent would typically give their child. Just said Ms. Williams is believed to also have 2 other children not living at the apartment or with the couple. So she's just having kids and, like, not even being a mother to any of them. Because she wasn't a mother to those kids. If a mother would have protected those children, she wasn't doing anything she was supposed to be doing for those boys. And it's disgusting. Sergeant Dennis Wolford described the situation inside the House of Horrors as classic child abuse, calling Mr. Coulter a very manipulative person. But Miss Williams is not accused of being violent toward her children. Sergeant Wolford said the mother and her boyfriend are both abusers. He is an abuser physically, and she is an abuser by omission, he said. Sergeant Wolford said Miss Williams and Mr. Coulter moved out of the apartment, abandoning the children around 5 to 6 months after Kendrick's murder. So she continued to live there with her dead son and her other 3 sons. I'm livid, like, that no one caught this. I promise you, like, it just makes me so angry. Because I'm like, people are in everybody's business at any other time, but when you need to be there, you're not there. No one's there to call the cops. Where's the Karens at now? So they were living in an apartment around 25 minutes away to distance themselves from the dead child, while they knew the entire time his dead body was in the apartment, he said. During this time, the two younger boys were not allowed to leave the apartment, he said. There was some evidence they were locked in, he said. The abuse continued during this time, he said. The beatings were consistent and mainly involving the younger children, he said. Because he's a coward. Like, he wasn't going to try to harm the 15-year-old. I guess he thought he would actually fight back and beat his ass. In the case of the 9-year-old's jaw injury, the sergeant said they believe the child may have been taken somewhere else, abused, and then taken back to the apartment. Sheriff Gonzalez said the living conditions that the children were subjected to were unspeakable, describing the soiled carpets, roaches, and flies, no furniture, and not even bedding for the kids to sleep on. I'm trying not to cry. So the sheriff said finding the children in such a horrific situation was, for law enforcement veterans, the most disturbing incident they worked in their entire law enforcement careers. It seemed too horrific to be real, he said. The 15-year-old boy had called the Harris County Sheriff's Office on Sunday afternoon to report that his younger brother had been dead for a year and that his parents had not been living with him and his two surviving siblings at the apartment for several months. The sheriff said deputies arriving on the scene found the dry skeletal remains of Kendrick and the 3 children, who were all very thin, hungry, and also suffering from injuries. The mother, we believe, was providing some food by delivery service or having food dropped off on a fairly routine basis, says Sheriff Gonzalez, adding that it was junk food. At least 2 of the children are on the autism spectrum, and none have been in school at all for more than a year. So they just basically, people just allowing them to just drop off the radar, and no one even inquires about them at all. Like, where was their old school? No one wonders what's going on. A spokesperson for the Leaf Independent School District told the Independent on Tuesday that the children had not been enrolled since May 2020, and that truancy complaints have been filed against Williams for the children in both 2019 and 2020. So you did truancy complaints, but why isn't anyone getting in trouble for their kids not being in school for like 2 years? The children appeared younger than their chronological age. They were very sweet children, Sergeant Wilford said. He added that the 15-year-old had been too afraid to alert the authorities to what was going on, as officers praised the teen's bravery for coming forward this weekend. And people have to remember, I mean, he's been abused for several years. So these beatings, this horrific abuse started when he was not 15. Like, he was younger. I think anyone would have been terrified in this situation to call anyone. I mean, even grown people, women who go through this type of abuse would be too scared to reach out for help. So it said, in the midst of the darkness of this horrific situation, I'm so glad that the 15-year-old reached out for help, says Sheriff Gonzalez. He said he hoped that the surviving children can now get the love, support, and protection that they so desperately need and deserve. We hope that their future is better than their past, he said. May this little angel rest in peace. Didn't have a chance, he said of their brother Kendrick. The Texas Department of Family and Protective Services has taken the surviving children into emergency custody. And that's it for this story. Wow. So I just wanted to read this because I saw this article and wanted to give you guys some more in-depth, updated information. I was struggling to get through this story this morning. So, because like I said, I just found out yesterday about it. I can't stop thinking about it, and I would just give anything to be able to take those boys in myself. Okay, so let me just continue with the video. So here's an additional story from New York Post, nypost.com, published October 27th. It says, heartbroken Houston horror house grandma speaks out after child's death. So this is Linda Reed Smith, the grandmother of Javion Kirkland, wishes she had adopted all the kids who were abandoned, abused in the Houston horror house. Where was she all this time? So this is why black families need to stop not being close. Like, we're not close enough as a whole. Like, grandma, everybody needs to be involved in raising these children. It can't just be just the parents, because it takes a village to raise kids, and somebody should have caught this. So the heartbroken grandmother of one of the children from the Houston horror house said Wednesday she should have adopted the boy before the abuse started, as news details emerged about the violent death of his 8-year-old brother, Kendrick Lee. Linda Smith, age 71, grandmother of starving and neglected 7-year-old Javion Kirkland, was devastated to learn he and his siblings were left in deplorable conditions by their mother, Gloria Williams, 35. And see, she probably did not know about this abuse because the father is either deceased or probably a deadbeat. And this is why I'm begging, absolutely begging everyone out there, if you have a relative who's not in their children's lives and you can get in touch with these children and check up on them, please, please, please do it. Don't feel like you're overstepping anything. You're their relative too. Like, I check up on my nieces as their aunt. I didn't care what my brother was doing. I still checked up on them because I know a father not being around leaves that void, that window open for a predator to come in. And I did not want my nieces harmed. So this is the responsibility of all the adults in this family who are connected to these boys to make sure that they are going to grow up to be strong, healthy men. You can't just leave it on the parents. Like, it's just like, enough is enough. And we've never been this way as people, and it's just not normal now. And that's why you see so many people committing suicide or killing their kids or whatever, because it's, I don't know why people are doing this, but people are going crazy. They need a break. You need people the elders to teach people how to be parents, or just check up on them. Or if you can see something, get the kids out of that situation. Like, if you see that your child is not raising your grandkids correctly, get your grandkids. You know, even if your other children have to help you raise the grandkids, like, do what you got to do as a family and stick together. This should have never happened. This makes me so mad. It just should have never happened. And the grandmother says, I hold myself partly responsible. I should have taken Javion and adopted him. Yeah, you should have. You should have. Because every time a deadbeat black guy that I've known from my own experience, when they're a deadbeat dad, their mothers condone that bullshit. They also become deadbeat grandmothers, and they don't, and deadbeat grandparents probably. I haven't had a situation before where it's a father around because the father either passed away, or something. Like, basically, I think usually the father had died. In my experience with this firsthand, it was usually just the grandmother there. But when my eldest son and his dad became a deadbeat, I tried to stay connected with his grandmother, and she just didn't. She if anything, she yelled at me for getting involved with her son, and she just didn't try to be in my son's life at all. So he's totally removed from them, and he's doing great. I made sure to give him the best life possible. And then when he decided to become a deadbeat, my father actually stepped in and would send money, and, he just made sure the girls had what they needed. And my mother, though, she was protecting my brother, and I was not having it. I just wasn't having it. I absolutely detest deadbeat parents. I have nothing nice to say about them, and my brother was not about to get away with that behavior. He used to actually be a very involved father, which is why marriage is not a badge of honor, because he was married to his wife, and he was in his oldest daughter's life while they were in the military. And then it's like guys somehow can just cut it off. If they're not with the mom anymore, they just disappear. It's like, that's unacceptable. You still have a whole human here. And I talked to his ex-wife, or whatever she is at this time. I think they're still married technically, but she was like, his daughter would just cry and cry and cry because she didn't know why her dad just suddenly was not around anymore. That broke my heart. But I would call, I would check on them, I would talk to the mothers, I was sending them things, and I was cussing my brother. I cussed my brother out. I was like, get in their lives now. I wrote him like a long ass email, and ever since then, The women, his baby mamas were like, I hate calling them that, but it's just to keep it short. They were like, I don't know what you said to him, but ever since then, he's been like involved in the girl's life. My mother, I also stay on her and like, go get your granddaughter. She's down the street. Go get her. Stay involved. And of course, thankfully, both the women, they have families that are very involved as well. So that's a good thing. But you got a whole other side of a family that is here who loves you. I don't care that my brother is a deadbeat. Like, I love you as your aunt. And I could see how family, extended family can get lost with this child, because I thought my brother, I didn't know he was a deadbeat dad. He was living in Georgia in another state, and I thought he was getting his kids, and I just kept waiting for him to bring his daughter so that we can meet him. And it just, the time was going by and it was like never happening. And that's when I started getting involved. I was like, wait, what's going on? When is he going to get his daughters, like for the summer or something, so we can come down and visit and see the girls? And it just like never happened. And I just fucking lost it. Like when I found out that he basically had become a deadbeat dad, I was like, oh, not on my watch. And I reined that shit in, because it's like the family needs to come together and hold people accountable. It always comes back to accountability. And his grandmother, she knew her son was not in this boy's life. Where was she at? Your grandma, you are the grandmother. You're the grandest of them all. You're the grandparent. You're grand. Where were you? Where were you? This shit happens way too much in the Black community. This is just the one story we do know. It's like, how many other stories are out there that we don't even know about? Get involved in your family's lives. I don't care if people think you're in their business. You ain't got no business. If you're not in your child's life, what business do you have? When you're not in that child's life and I'm related to that child by blood, I'm on that child's family tree, it is my business. It is my business, because you stepped out of the fucking way and left the shit open for predators. Like, now I need to get involved to make sure nothing's going to happen to my family, to the little kids of the next generation. I've always been extremely, fiercely loyal to my family. And I just don't play games. I don't play games with the little kids. They're defenseless. They need people. I already told the one mom, I was like, I'll watch your daughter next year. And I'll get both of the girls. I don't care. I will get both of them and keep them for the summer. God willing, I will do it. I just have had it. We have to get involved in these kids' lives. Like, these kids have other family members. Where was everyone else for several years while these children were being abused? Where was everyone else? All you got is the mom and her shit boyfriend. Where was the grandmother, the aunts, the aunties, the uncles, the cousins, the dads? Where is everyone? And the dad should have been the first one I named. I just know they said one passed away, but where were all the other relatives? This is a problem in the Black community. We're not close anymore. Everyone just minds their own business and just whatever until they want to be messy and they're just gossiping about you. Like, no one takes care of anyone anymore. How did we get here? How did we get here? How did we get here? That this is what we're doing. This should have never happened. So now you got grandma coming in years later talking about, I feel partly responsible. You should. You should feel partly responsible. And she said she should have adopted Javion. Are you going to adopt him now? Don't just talk or get game. Get him and his brothers and take them in. That's the least you can do after being neglectful and MIA for several years. Because I don't even believe those relatives that were on the couch. I don't believe they were concerned about these children either. Ain't no kid in school that damn much. 4 kids always in school? Negative. Negative. You never saw that. You never see the kids. And if you would have seen them, you would have known they were being abused. There's no way you live close. I don't know if they didn't live close by or what the circumstances are, but this shit is unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. There's no words. Like, I promise you. I'm begging you guys out there, like, please watch after the children in your family. Your nieces, your nephews, your second cousins. Just check on them and be like, hey, you need anything? You good? Get their information. So you don't have to go through the parents. Just call and check on them just to make sure they're okay. Because parents, if they're doing the wrong thing, they're going to be trying to keep you from them. Exchange tech. Everyone has a smartphone. Exchange smartphone information. Get the address. Add them on Facebook. I'm in all my little people's business. The second generation, the generation behind us. I'm in all their business. I befriend them on Instagram. If I see they have a page, I'm befriending you on Instagram. I'm friending you on Facebook. I got your phone number. We're gonna share. We're gonna text every now and then, see how you're doing. I'm all up in your business. Because I'm an elder now, and that's what I get to do. I get to be nosy to make sure you're okay. So it says, during a court appearance Wednesday, a prosecutor read statements from the 3 surviving children who said they witnessed Williams' boyfriend, Brian Coulter, age 31, beat the young boy to death, according to footage aired on Houston station. I can't even listen to that. KTRK, the kids said they saw Coulter repeatedly punch Kendrick in his back and face, then covered him with the blanket when he appeared dead. Fucking demons. Fucking cowards. Brian W. Coulter was arrested and charged with the murder of 8-year-old Kendrick Lee. We all failed this boy. And Gloria Y. Williams is arrested and charged with child injury and tampering with evidence. Coulter allegedly kicked Kendrick while he was lying on the floor not moving, Javion said, according to the prosecutor. It's disgusting. Eight-year-old Kendrick Lee died of multiple blunt force injuries. He said when Williams walked into the bedroom to check on her son and found him lifeless, she began sobbing and fighting with Coulter. But the couple soon fled without the kids, the prosecutor stated. In 2015, Smith said Williams and all of her children moved in with her while Javion's dad was behind bars, Smith said. Okay, so they did live with her in 2015. Okay, so Javion's dad is in jail. They lived there for 3 years, but Smith eventually tossed them out because Williams repeatedly brought men into her home. We had differences. I didn't want her bringing different men into the house, Smith said, so I asked her to leave. Smith said she had no idea the children were being abused, but now regrets making them go. I wish I would have known how bad of a... Okay, she should know. She should at least checked on them. She knew these kids... She knew that lady was crazy. Who brings different men into your mother-in-law's house? Like, she's basically your mother-in-law. But she said, I wish I would have known how bad of a situation those kids were in. I would have adopted all of the kids, she told the Daily Mail. I regret kicking her out. I should have never done that. I've asked myself, what else have these kids gone through with all of the guys that have been in and out of her life? Were the kids molested, abused? Yeah, and that's exactly why you should have kept them close. Like, at least keep an eye on them, like, check in on them. Javion and his siblings, Jordan Lee, who's 15, and Trayvon Lee, age 10, were found abandoned Sunday along with the skeletal remains of Kendrick, the youngest one. I could have sworn there was one younger than him. Williams was charged with neglecting the kids while Coulter was arrested for the beating death of Kendrick. On Tuesday, Kendrick's autopsy revealed he died of blunt force injuries. After Williams left Smith's home in 2015, she quote-unquote disappeared before reappearing with Javion a few years later. Smith said, "I always felt if she had to choose between her kids and her man, she would choose her children. But it's hard to say," Smith said of Williams. "She had some strange ways. Looking back on it now, I think if I would have asked her, she would have let me adopt Javion. It was just a feeling I got," Smith said. Smith now feels compelled to care for all of the kids and is encouraging her son to adopt Javion. "I'm heartbroken to hear what happened to them," she said. Smith also wonders if Williams herself may have been abused by Coulter. No, she wasn't. Sometimes women can be battered into doing things. Who knows if she was struggling, she said. "In some ways, she was a pretty good mother. There might be a deeper story. My heart is starting to soften to her. Not mine. I don't care what abuse I'm going through. You ain't hurting my kids." So authorities were alerted to the abuse on Sunday after Jordan Lee called 911 prompting a welfare check. Coulter and Williams allegedly left Kendrick's body rotting in a closet and abandoned the other 3 children, authorities have said. And I hope the grandmother gets them. I hope the father steps his sorry ass up and adopts his child, gets his son. He don't got to adopt his child. It's his child. Just gets his child and gets custody of him. And that they get the babies. I'm praying to God. I'm praying to God. That happens. So I just again saw this story as well. So there's more information just coming out. And I try to read as much as I can to just know more about the victims. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to read more about this, just to find out more about I was encouraged when I saw about the grandmother speaking out, and I hope she does get custody of the kids.